The last day of my old life was a Tuesday in October. The air outside our Seattle home was crisp with the promise of winter, but inside, there was a quiet warmth. My son, Sam, was hunched over the kitchen table, his brow furrowed in concentration. We were putting the final touches on an architectural model, a miniature world of balsa wood and glue. You can tell a lot about a person by how they build things. Sam was meticulous, patient, his 11-year-old hands surprisingly steady. In that moment, the quiet wasn't peace. It was the calm before a storm I didn't know was coming. Then, the front door opened, and Isabella, my wife, stepped in. She brought the chill of the outside world with her. She moved through our home like a guest, an art piece admiring other art pieces. She praised Sam's work, her voice a perfect, melodic chime. She smiled at me and I smiled back. But her smile, as always, was a masterpiece of composition that never quite reached her eyes. It was flawless, beautiful, and completely hollow. It was the smile of a beautiful stranger I happened to be married to. That quiet lasted for another 20 minutes. Isabella went upstairs to her home office, the one with the sound-dampening panels she'd insisted on for her important calls. I was cleaning up the last of the wood shavings when I heard it. The sound of footsteps on the stairs, fast and clumsy. It wasn't a child's run. It was the frantic scramble of a cornered animal. Sam appeared in the doorway, his face as white as a sheet of paper. His eyes, usually so bright with curiosity, were wide with a terror I had only ever seen on the faces of young soldiers. He wasn't crying. That's what scared me the most. I knelt in front of him, my heart starting to pound.
Sam?
What is it? Did you fall? He just shook his head, his whole body trembling as he held out his phone. My blood ran cold before I even knew why. My mind raced through a dozen parent terrors. A cyberbully, a threatening message, but the look on his face was something far older than the internet. He wasn't showing me a game or a video. His thumb was hovering over the icon for his voice recorder. He whispered one word, "Mom," and as I pressed play, I felt the floor of my world give way. A tinny, distorted sound leaked from the phone's tiny speaker, and then the first voice was Isabella's. My wife. Her tone wasn't angry or panicked. It was the same one she used to discuss quarterly reports or art gallery acquisitions. Cold, efficient, and detached. "He doesn't suspect a thing," she said, her voice crystal clear. "The insurance policy clears in 5 weeks. Yes, both of them." For a split second, my mind tried to build a wall to find another explanation. A script for a movie? A prank? Then, another voice, a man's, crackled through. "You sure about the timing, Bella?" "It's perfect," Isabella replied, her voice dropping a little, becoming even colder. "He'll be dead before the holidays. Natural causes, of course." My breath caught in my throat. That mountain pass he drives can be so treacherous in the winter. Brake failure. Tragic. My mind was screaming, a silent, internal siren. But the next words were the ones that shattered me. "And the kid?" The man asked. "Grief-induced suicide. A boy who couldn't live without his father. The insurance companies will practically throw money at me." The boy she was talking about, the loose end to be tied up, was my son. My Sam. My world didn't collapse in that moment. It simply ceased to exist, replaced by a silent, white void and the sound of my own heart hammering against my ribs. The white void receded, replaced by a clarity so sharp it hurt. The architect in me died in that moment, and the soldier I thought I'd left behind in Afghanistan took command. The grief, the rage, the betrayal, they were all there, but they were packed into a steel box and shoved to the back of my mind. There would be time for them later. Now, there was only survival. I looked at Sam, and I didn't see a terrified child. I saw my mission. I put my hands on his shoulders. "Listen to me, Sam. Pack a bag. 5 minutes. Essentials only."
No noise.
He didn't ask why. He didn't cry. He just nodded. My little soldier. Thankfully, Isabella was deep into one of her marathon conference calls. Upstairs. The door to her office sealed shut. That was our window. We were no longer a family. We were two soldiers behind enemy lines, and we had to move. The truck's wipers fought a losing battle against the Seattle rain. In the rearview mirror, I could see the city lights bleeding into a watercolor blur. Sam was asleep in the passenger seat, his face finally relaxed in the innocence of dreams. But I wasn't driving toward the light. I was driving into the darkness, toward the only person on earth I could trust with this. Marcus didn't live in a house. He lived in a fortress, a converted warehouse in an industrial district that was dead silent after 10 p.m. He didn't ask questions when he saw me standing on his doorstep, soaked and grim-faced, with my son asleep in my arms. He just opened the door wider. After I put Sam to bed in his spare room, I sat across from Marcus at his steel workbench and played the recording. He listened to the entire thing without saying a single word, his face like stone. But I knew Marcus. I saw the muscle jump in his jaw, the way his knuckles turned white as he clenched his fist. When it was over, he was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice low and gravelly. My younger sister, Chloe, she fell for a guy like that. Smooth talker. He didn't try to kill her, but he bled her dry, took every penny she had, broke her spirit. He looked at me, his eyes hard as flint. This isn't just business for me, Leo. It's personal. So, you tell me, what's the plan? Marcus didn't need a plan from me. Not yet. He simply said, first, we know our enemy. He moved to his command center, a constellation of monitors humming with quiet power. Give me her digital keys, he said, and so I did. I gave him the passwords I knew she used, our anniversary, the name of her childhood pet, the title of her favorite novel. The intimate details of our life, now being used as keys to unlock her betrayal. The first door he opened was her cloud storage. It was neatly organized, just like her. Folders for art acquisitions, travel, and finances. It was inside finances that we struck gold. Or rather, black gold, oozing with poison. That's when we found them, the life insurance policies. $5 million on my life. Another $1 million on Sam's. The signature on the documents was a near-perfect forgery of my own. She had been practicing. We found cryptocurrency wallets holding more than I made in 5 years, all funneled to offshore accounts. But it was a folder labeled Project Phoenix that made my stomach turn to acid. It wasn't just a plan. It was a business proposal, complete with timelines, risk assessments, and projected ROI. It detailed the staged break failure, the fake witnesses, the media manipulation. But it was phase 3 that broke me. It was titled Grief Management and Final Asset Liquidation. It detailed how to coach Sam into a state of believable depression before staging his suicide 2 weeks after my accident. The first strike in this war wasn't fired by me. It was fired by her, and it was broadcast on live television. 2 days after we disappeared, Marcus pointed to one of his monitors. You need to see this. And there she was on every local news channel, standing on the courthouse steps. She was wearing the blue sweater I bought her for our 3rd anniversary. The one she said made her feel safe. Her makeup was flawless, except for the single perfect tear track carving a path down her cheek. My husband has been unstable lately, she said, her voice a symphony of deceit. His time in the military. It left scars no one can see. She clutched a tissue as if it were her only lifeline, telling the cameras I had snapped, that I'd kidnapped our son, that she was terrified of what I might do. She wasn't just lying. She was erasing me, replacing the man I was with a monster of her own creation. A reporter asked if she thought Sam was in danger. Isabella's face crumpled. I pray that Leo won't hurt our boy, but when someone you love becomes someone you don't recognize. She left the sentence hanging in the air, a poisonous vapor. In that moment, I realized her plan wasn't just to kill me. It was to kill my name first. I sat at Marcus's steel desk, a single lamp illuminating the documents in front of me. I didn't need to show my face. My voice would be enough. I started recording. My name is Leo Callahan. As an architect, my entire career is built on a single principle. A structure built on a flawed foundation will collapse. Today, I'm here to show you the flawed foundation of a plan built on lies. I held up the life insurance policy for $5 million. Then the second, for $1 million. My voice didn't shake as I stated the policy numbers and the sole beneficiary, Isabella. I explained that my signature was a forgery and that Isabella was not Sam's biological mother. Then I raised the stakes. Evidence has come into my possession that proves a criminal conspiracy, including audio recordings of my wife and her partner planning my murder and the subsequent murder of my son. I looked directly into the camera's lens, speaking not to the public, but to her. Isabella, I said, my voice low and even, you thought you were hunting a broken man. You were wrong. You've been hunting a soldier. And the soldier is hunting you now. Then I hit upload. My video detonated online. Within hours, it had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. The calls weren't just from reporters. They were from federal agents, old army buddies, and even the school principal, all offering tentative support. For about 12 hours, I allowed myself to believe I was in control. I had exposed her, and now the system would take over. I was wrong. Isabella wasn't stupid. She was a cornered snake, and cornered snakes are the most dangerous. Then Marcus's phone rang. He listened, his expression hardening from stone into something far more lethal. He hung up and looked at me. She's good, he said, a grudging respect in his voice. She didn't come after me. She didn't try to deny my claims. She came after my queen. She came after Marcus. She tipped off the local cops, Marcus relayed, his voice tight with fury. An anonymous call about an ex-military burnout with an illegal weapons cache at this address. It's a trap, Leo. She's not trying to get me arrested. She's trying to flush us out into the open. The feeling of victory evaporated. We weren't the hunters anymore. Once again, we were the prey. We had to burn the safe house. We wiped every server, destroyed every hard drive, and were back in the truck within 30 minutes. Ghosts once more. Driving through the rain-slicked streets, I knew running wasn't a long-term plan. Isabella had forced my hand. I had one card left to play, and it was a wild one. The local cops were compromised by her tip. I had to go over their heads. I used a burner phone to contact the office of the Assistant District Attorney. Her name was Evans. Assistant District Attorney Evans was not what I expected. We met in a 24-hour diner that smelled of stale coffee and regret. She was young, sharp, with intelligent eyes that seemed to dissect everything. She looked at the evidence I presented, the insurance documents, the printouts of the financial transfers, with the bored expression of a woman who had seen 1,000 bitter divorces. To her, I wasn't a man fighting for his life. I was just another husband with a story. Circumstantial, she said, her voice flat as she pushed the papers back across the table. A good lawyer will tear this apart. My heart sank. Then I slid my son's phone across the table. This isn't circumstantial, I said. I hit play. She listened to the whole 2 minutes. The boredom in her eyes was replaced by a look of cold, professional fury. She looked up at me, her entire demeanor changed. Mr. Callahan, she said, her voice now sharp as glass. Tell me everything. The game had changed. I was no longer a fugitive. With ADA Evans providing legal cover and Marcus providing the tactical gear, we were now a state-sanctioned ghost unit. We weren't just a team, we were a scalpel, ready to cut out the cancer. The plan was simple, and it was mine, born from knowing Isabella's greatest weaknesses, her arrogance and her need for absolute control. We wouldn't wait for the trial. We would make her incriminate herself in a way no lawyer could ever dismiss. I became a new character in her story, a blackmailer. We sent the first message from a burner phone, routing the signal through 3 different countries. Attached to the text was an audio file, a 3-second snippet of her own voice, cold and clear, saying the words, "Dead before the holidays." Then came the demand. The text read, "I know what you did. $500,000 for the full recording. You have 24 hours to respond, or this goes to every news station in the state." The bait was set. Now all we had to do was wait for the snake to leave her hole. The first 18 hours were pure, agonizing silence. We watched her digital footprint like hawks. Nothing. No panicked calls, no sudden travel plans. It was a test of nerves, and she was brilliant at it. Then Marcus held up a hand. She's moving money. But it wasn't the $500,000 we'd asked for. It was a smaller amount, being shifted between untraceable crypto accounts. She wasn't preparing to pay us. She was preparing for a different kind of transaction. Finally, at the 20-hour mark, the burner phone buzzed. Her reply was 3 words. "Who is this?" It wasn't from a burner phone. It was from her own number. Power move. She was showing us she wasn't afraid. I texted back a single word. Phoenix. The code name from her own murder proposal. The line went silent again for an hour. I could picture her mind working, weighing the odds, calculating the angles. I knew my wife. I knew that in her mind, paying someone off was a sign of weakness. And Isabella never, ever allowed herself to be weak. Her final text came through. "The old shipyard by the water. Midnight tomorrow. Come alone and you'll get what you want." Marcus looked at me, a question in his eyes. "You think she's going to pay?" I shook my head. "No," I said, my voice grim. "She isn't coming to pay a blackmailer. She's coming to kill one." The old shipyard was a graveyard of forgotten steel, smelling of salt and rust. We were parked 300 yards away in a surveillance van, a ghost in a city of ghosts. Marcus was running the audio feed. ADA Evans was on a secure channel with the FBI team, and I was just watching the end of my life as I knew it. This wasn't just my plan anymore. It was a federal operation, and Isabella was the target. Her silver sedan cut through the darkness like a shark's fin, parking under a lone, flickering light. She got out, poised and confident. She wasn't just looking for the undercover agent. She was scanning the shadows, the rooftops. She came prepared for a war. The agent, a man named Diaz, walked into the light. "You have what I want." Her voice crackled through our earpieces, sharp and demanding. "Show me the money first," Diaz replied, playing his part perfectly. She slid a heavy duffel bag across the ground with her foot. For a second, a foolish, naive part of me almost thought I had misjudged her. Maybe she would just pay. Diaz knelt to open the bag. And then she spoke the words we were all waiting for. "The money is all there," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "But there's a problem. Dead men can't spend it." From her coat pocket, she pulled a pistol, fitted with a silencer. Before she could even raise it, the world erupted. Floodlights turned the night into day. "FBI, drop your weapon. Now!" The sound of agents swarming from every direction. The authoritative shouts. The chaos. I watched her face in the flashing blue and red lights as they pushed her to the ground. It wasn't fear. It wasn't shock. It was pure, undiluted rage. The rage of a queen whose chessboard had just been flipped over. The trial wasn't a battle. It was a formality, an autopsy of a crime that was already dead on arrival. The evidence was a mountain. The recordings, the financial trails, the testimony of the undercover agent. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of my post-military instability. The jury saw through it in under 3 hours. The prosecution's star witness was my 12-year-old son. He walked to the stand, small in that big room, but his voice was clear. He didn't sound like a victim. He sounded like a witness, calmly recounting the facts as he knew them. But the moment that sealed her fate came when they played the recordings in open court. I watched Isabella. She listened to her own voice plotting murder with the mild, detached curiosity of someone listening to a weather report. There was no flicker of shame, no remorse. Nothing. Just a chilling emptiness. The judge, a woman in her 60s with eyes that had seen it all, looked down at Isabella. "In my 30 years on this bench," she said, her voice echoing in the silent room, "I have seen evil, but rarely have I seen it so meticulously planned." She sentenced her to 2 consecutive life sentences, without the possibility of parole. "You will die in prison, Mrs. Callahan," the judge stated, not as a threat, but as a fact. The sound of the gavel was the final nail in the coffin of my old life. It's been 3 years. We don't live in Seattle anymore. We found a small plot of land in a quiet corner of Oregon, a place where the trees outnumber the people. We don't talk about her, not because it's a forbidden topic, but because she has become irrelevant to the life we are building now. We're building a house together, Sam and I, a real one with a foundation dug into the earth and walls that rise toward the sky. The slow work, but every beam we raise, every nail we drive, feels like an act of defiance, an act of creation against an act of destruction. The other day, while we were framing a window, he asked me a question that I still don't have an answer for. "Dad," he said, his voice now deeper, on the edge of becoming a man's, "why was she like that?" He wasn't asking about the plan or the money. He was asking about the why, the human why, and I told him the truth. "I don't know, buddy. Some people are just born with missing pieces." People have called this a revenge story, but they're wrong. Revenge is about settling scores with the past. This was about fighting for a future. It was about survival and the freedom to build a new life one plank at a time. If you've ever had to rebuild your world from the ashes, you know what I mean? And you know that the quiet moments, the ones filled with the simple sound of a hammer hitting a nail, are the most satisfying victory of all. If this story resonated with you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones we can all share and connect with.